Welcome down to my 9-foot homemade oak bar. Pour yourself a cold one. You are listening to Bucs in the Basement. My name's Chris, and Craig here is the biggest Pirates fan you'll ever meet. Let's talk Pirates baseball now. Welcome to Bucs in the Basement.
Now I see the changes in this town. They change, they say one thing, but then the next day it's different. They change, but they don't know what they want. All they do is change. Going left, going right, travel day, travel night. That's where we'll go. No excuses, no goodbyes, no one cries, no one lies. We'll never know.
Bucs in the Basement. My name's Chris. His name's Craig. Finally on up to the 9-foot homemade oak bar. Pour yourself a cold one. You ready for a festival for Pirates fans? Are Pirates fans ready for the festival? Are they pumped up for Pirates Fest?
I mean, it's the my God! There's two different sides to this.
It's gonna be a bloodbath. I'm sorry. Look, there is more that needs to be done. They would have been better off just canceling this thing, because if you're not prepared as a member of the Pirates organization to take some guff from the fan base, then you shouldn't be there. Because look, I am fine with how things have been built. I'm excited about the potential of the next couple of years. I am dismayed by the offseason. I don't think the offseason's been good enough. And look, I am a realist. I understand the market's been crappy, right? Like, you see guys that are terrible pitchers, up and down pitchers, getting deals like what did Lucas Giolito get? He got 2 years at around $20 million a year. He's not worth that. Okay. Frankie Montas gets a 1-year prove-it deal for $16 million. Come on. Like right now, the money being given out to starting pitching is so stupid. So you could make the argument that the Pirates, knowing that the marketplace was out of whack, at least took care of some things in case the market doesn't give them a possibility in the back end. And yes, they could add a pitcher. Yes, they could add a position player. Yes, they could not be done. But man, when they get to this festival, it is going to be a very unfinished offseason. And I don't know how they promise it's going to get better. So what's the message going to be? I mean, is the message going to be just be patient? Because nobody's going to want to hear that. Right?
Chris, we've been patient.
Nobody's going to want to hear it, man.
We've been patient for so long. And the things that you're saying are definitely right. But when Frankie Montas gets signed, it's officially a $14 million deal for the first year, a $2 million buyout. So it essentially is a 1-year, $16 million deal, because then there's a mutual option on the end. If he pitches well, he's going to opt out of it. If he pitches terribly, they aren't going to pick that up. So, I mean, in the essence, it's 1 year, $16 million. And he's a good pitcher at times. He was a good pitcher leading up to his injury. But you have a guy coming back from a shoulder injury, which we've seen a million times. Not saying it's going to happen, but you see those shoulder injuries turn into elbow injuries, turn into forearm injuries, turn into oblique injuries.
I mean, look, Luis Severino for the Yankees, and remember, he's now been signed to another 1-year prove-it deal somewhere else in baseball, if I'm not mistaken, and he got money that didn't make any sense. Here's a guy who had exactly that trait. One injury into another injury, then got to pitch a little bit but wasn't that good, and just based on the potential gets himself that 1-year prove-it deal that he got. And it's for stupid money right now.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean, look, realistically, Craig, if you put me in the front office of the Pirates right now, if Ben Cherington and I are able to do a body swap, and all of a sudden I've entered into Ben Cherington. I know that sounds dirty, but I've entered into Ben Cherington. And everybody's walking around calling me Ben, but secretly it's Chris inside, right? Go see Bob. Turns out he really is that cheap. Right? I go ask him for money. He laughs at me. He goes, "You ask me every day." Laughs. Goes back to booking his next trip to that island where all the billionaires hunt people. Like, that's what it's like on that first day. And I sit down and I look at what he has up to this point and what's going on in free agency. There's a lot of me that would be sitting around going, okay, well, what can we get within the budget that we have that will actually improve this team? And again, I don't think you get that like right now because of how stupid some of the contracts are. Like unless you have pro scouts that have identified a person that the rest of Major League Baseball is completely ignoring to this point, and you're able to go knock on that guy's door, and I don't even know if that guy exists, and you're able to say, hey, we're the Pirates. We'd like to sign you. And they go, wow, I really thought somebody else would knock on my door, but they didn't because I had this really bad metric. And we go, whoa. But we see this thing here, and we see this little hitch in your giddy up here, and we think we can fix this here, and we'd like you to sign with us. And we're so confident in our scouting and our ability to fix you, we're going to give you a 2-year deal with a 1-year club option. And the guy jumps at it, and it's within the range. That's probably the only thing they could do right now. Because anybody that believes in themselves in the free agent market who's a pitcher right now is like, well, I want Frankie Montas money. I want Lucas Giolito money. I'm as good as him, right? And there's so many stupid deals being handed out for pitching.
Yeah, and I look at like even like last year with like say Mike Clevenger, what'd he get? Like 1 year, $8 million with like
but
an option?
it was really 1 and 12. If you look at his thing from last year, and that's why he's out, is that it was a 1 year, $8 million deal on paper with a $10 million deal, I want to say, for the option, right? But he could opt out with, even if the team wanted him, because I believe the White Sox said they wanted him, but it was a mutual option. He could opt out and get $4 million.
Okay.
And then go look for another contract. So to opt out after the first year meant that 1 year was only worth 12, and he walks into a marketplace where right now he may be as valuable, if not more valuable, than a Frankie Montas who just signed a $16 million deal. He actually outpitched Lucas Giolito if you put them side by side on the same team last year, right? So now Clevenger's sitting there right now going, I did the perfect thing. I signed a deal. I refused my option. Took $4 million for just saying I refused the option. Made the $8 million into 12 on a season that's already completed. And now I'm out here in this crazy marketplace, right? So I mean, like it is getting really stupid. And I'll be honest with you, Pirates fans, I believe it in my heart. Major League Baseball is going to become a question of the teams that can afford to go out and spend $20 million on a mid-rotation guy per year. That's all Lucas Giolito is. Lucas Giolito's a 3 on a good team. He's a 3. You look at his stats and you try to tell me otherwise. Has he had one good year in there? Yeah. Has he had some bad ones? You bet he has. Okay. Is his whip sometimes worse than a 1.3? Yes. He is not a $20 million a year pitcher. It makes absolutely no sense to me. But if you're giving $20 million a year for mid-rotation guys, okay, and you're giving even more than that to top rotation guys, and your guys who are fifth starters are probably making $8 million to $10 million on prove-it deals, I don't know how the Pirates can field a rotation realistically unless they get the majority of their pitching internally or through trades for guys that are controllable on better contracts. I think that some Major League Baseball teams will have to take the philosophy of our money is better spent for that last move, or our money is better spent to keep guys that we believe in, or our money is better spent to go and get that one piece, whether it be a pitcher or it be a hitter in your lineup, where I think you could actually make the case that right now the everyday players per dollar you're getting a better value on than you're getting with pitchers who deal with injuries and only pitch once every 5 days and are so volatile. Your money is probably best invested in a position player than it is in a pitcher. And so the Pirates' most valuable thing, and I think a lot of other teams are going to be doing this, I think that there's the haves and the have-nots. The have-nots are going to be sitting there saying, we need to gather as many pitching prospects as humanly possible and hope that one of them turns into a frontline top-end starter at the top of our rotation, and that we get a couple of years where he's controlled. And then we're going to have to fill in the back end with what we're able to afford in the free agent market, right? It's why Paul Skeens is so valuable right now to the Pirates. Did you see? I was just looking at our fantasy baseball league. He's listed on the top 150 prospects in all. No, not top 150 prospect. Top 150 dynasty players, major league players like Ohtani, and prospects based upon their value to fantasy baseball. And fantasy baseball doesn't look at like what a guy's going to be like in 5 years. They're actually saying, could he actually do something for you this year? And what is he going to be in future years for you in your fantasy baseball system? And he's sitting in the top 100, actually. I think he's like 76 on that list. It's something stupid. And you're sitting there going to yourself like, they value him that much with the little amount that he's had in the minor leagues, because those guys taking a 10,000-foot look at like him and taking a look at what his potential is and looking at the Pirates are basically saying he could be playing this year and he could end up being a top-end rotation guy, and you should go gamble on that with your fantasy team. And that's the kind of guy that is more likely to be at the top of the Pirates rotation, far more likely than them going out and spending $30 million a year on a player. He becomes extremely valuable because you're filling in, waiting for guys like that to lead you to the promised land and hoping you have enough guys in your system where if he doesn't work out, somebody else steps in.
If you ever see me out and about in Pittsburgh, you will always recognize me. And not just because of the white beard, but also because of the Y that is always on top of my head, the hat I always wear. The Yins brand, proud partners with Bucs in the Basement. 3 dynasties, 1 brand, Yins. Finally, 1 brand to rep all black and gold. Follow at Shop Yins for new merch drops and giveaways. Order online at www.shopyins, the emphasis on the 2 Z's, high quality comfort, lightweight materials, a new modern look for the black and gold, made for Yins by a Yinzer. And the piece of this that like kind of just sticks in my head is that I know we've talked about how Twitter and how everything isn't real, but just the outrage that comes when Frankie Montas gets his deal coming off of an injury. And then, of course, you talk down upon like a Marco Gonzalez, who is also coming on off an injury, and you're basically getting him for $3 million. Martin Perez, who's 1 year removed from an all-star, but is a very consistent pitcher who gives innings, that you're getting for $8 million. I understand where the market is, but I also understand that if the market starts to go up and you have Aldi keeping their prices the same, there's times where, if I'm struggling for money for a week or two, I'm going to go buy some stuff at Aldi, and I could possibly get the same value of it, the same taste, the same everything. So, I understand. I would love the Pirates to spend, and they have been attached to some players. The most recent one is Yariel Rodriguez, the Cuban pitcher. Didn't do a lot in the foreign leagues. He was pitching he was pitching out of the bullpen, but for Cuba in the World Baseball Classic was starting to get stretched back out again. Does have some good stuff to him. I guess it looks like I've seen Toronto being the front runner. But they see him more as a bullpen arm. So really the only thing going for the Pirates is that, they may view him more as a starter, and that may be what he wants to do. But ultimately, it still comes down to the fact that you look at the Braves and how much they spent on Reynaldo Lopez to be a reliever. You could see Toronto, missing out on Ohtani, and doing the same type of thing, that they could be like, we're going to give you 3 years, $45 million, and you're going to sit in our bullpen. And if somebody gets hurt, we'll bring you into the rotation. It's not an even playing ground, like, whatsoever. And no, I wish
it's not. Look, there were all kinds of names on this list of free agent pitchers going into the season that you're like, oh, this guy, he may have a bounce back, and you could get him at a value. But all those guys were able to get these 1-year deals, right? There's Jack Flaherty got one. Frankie Montas got one. Luis Severino got one. All these names got him. Even Lance Lynn at 37 gets a $10 million deal, and he was just a launching pad for home runs last year. Just absolutely atrocious. Lucas Giolito, they're hoping he has a bounce back. He gets that 2-year deal worth about $40 million. It's absolutely crazy, the money that's being handed out to these guys. So look, here's the question. You brought it up. would you want the Pirates to invest $16 million? If you knew how much money that Bob Nutting was going to spend, right? You had his budget in front of you. Let's say the pool is $50 million. Okay, which would be great right now. I will make it more realistic. Let's say he's got $30 million he's willing to add on. It should be a lot more, but let's just say he's got that. And you look at what this team needs. Would you put $16 million on Frankie Montas? Would you say that's you want to put half of what Bob's supposed to add in there? Or if it is $50 million, you want to put in a third of what Bob's gonna actually spend? Are you willing to invest that much into him on a 1-year deal where long term he's not going to be a part of your team? Because if he pitches well, he's going to go out and get more. And if he pitches poorly, you're not going to want him back. So you're really getting him as a 1-year rental player because you're willing to invest that money because you think you could win a championship. No. Right? Like, no.
It's
you don't think
not
you can
even
win
close.
You're not a Frankie Montas away, right? You're not a Frankie Montas away. So that's the biggest issue. The biggest issue is that the owner, being a billionaire that doesn't spend a lot of money, has provided a small amount of money for players. And then the general manager in the front office has to then determine, is a Frankie Montas worth a 1-year rental at that amount of money? And I think anybody would sit there and say no. Like, I guess if you're a rabid fan, you're like, yeah, we can do it. You got to try. But I think what's more likely is that you have your limited amount of player money and you're sitting there saying, okay, well, we have several things that we need to address here, and we may need to wait until the music stops and some of these pitchers don't have chairs, and we find one of value within our range, or two of value within our range, or a pitcher of value and an outfielder of value, and and we go and we spend that money in that way, and maybe we get somebody that we really like, either extended that's already on the team with the leftover money, or we sign somebody for multiple years because we don't want to be going out every year and adding 10 guys to the 40-man on 1-year contracts. So, like, that's unfortunately the yin and the yang of this entire thing, is that if Bob Nutting was increasing this payroll as he should by $100 million, because now the rebuild is over and it's time to invest in your team, okay, then by all means go out and sign yourself a couple of pitchers at $20 million a year and let's start playing baseball. But unfortunately, this isn't because Ben Cherington doesn't want to go sign pitchers. It's because Bob Nutting isn't giving him enough money to go spend that way. So now he has to play this way in the free agent market, and that's why Pirates Fest should be a bloodbath. But it really should be a bloodbath at Bob Nutting. That's what I'm saying.
And that's even if Bob Nutting shows up. And while you were speaking, Chris, the big piece that like kind of stuck out to me was, we talked about in the beginning, we didn't know like how much Ben Cherington was going to be given this year. I mean, we've seen it reported different places that it would top out at like 85 million. We were asking for 100 million, but the thing I've been thinking about is something you said, I don't know how many episodes ago it was. So, I mean, everybody just basically needs to listen to any episode we've ever done. But I remember you saying, like, also, if you have so much money and you have to put it into the team, well, what if you are trying to also acquire players, towards the end of the season and actually need to take on salary? So Ben Cherington is also in some ways looking towards that. I mean, you all,
yeah, because you don't want him to be Billy Bean in that movie. You don't want him to be Billy Bean trying to get Rincon in Moneyball. If you remember that scene, anybody that watched it, and the Billy Bean character goes, "We got to get Rincon," and the owner won't give him an extra $500,000 because he's already up against his budget. So then he has to bluff him and say he's going to use his own money to buy Rincon, but when he sells him back, he gets to keep the profit. Remember that?
Yeah.
And then you get that's that whole scene. You don't want to be that, right? You don't. What you really want is you want an owner that gives you a budget at the beginning of the year that you can go to in the middle of the year, that you have confidence when you sit there and say, this will improve our team and we really do need to increase our budget. And can you do this? Because, I think an intelligent business person understands that if they put a good product on the field, they increase the value of the team, they make more money, right? I mean, if the Pirates are winning division titles year in and year out, if the Pirates are packing the stadium because they're the place to be with exciting young players and we're going to playoff series and we're watching, okay, either a stadium filled with with Pirates yellow, gold, right?
Yeah.
Or just all black, which would be kind of cool, right? And just like and we're seeing like that kind of scene like you saw in Philadelphia. And it's the place. Even if they don't win a title every year, right? They're just in contention. And that Pirates fans are into it. And that now all of a sudden their TV rights are worth more money. Their merchandise is worth more money. They get national attention. They start making more money. They become a much more valuable franchise. They don't need to be in the top 5 in payroll. They just need to be about middle of the road spending their money right. Unfortunately, this guy wants to be in the bottom third of payroll and thinks he'll make money as a business. He doesn't have the foresight to say, if I build it, they will come. If I put something on the field that's good, people will show up and I'll make more money. What he wants to do is protect the money that he currently has and enjoy the plaything that he's only investing so much money in every year. This is a billionaire's toy, okay? And this billionaire doesn't care enough about it. Now, maybe he gets diagnosed with cancer, and then he says, well, I want to win a title before I die. And then that's how he starts spending money, right? I mean, like, you laugh at that, but that has happened in Major League Baseball.
It's happened already, yeah. It's like,
right?
it's...
I mean, like, think about that. You get these owners that get to the end of their life, and all of a sudden, the Tigers have a $400 million payroll for a year or whatever. Like, I mean, like, you see all these weird things that happen where, like, teams are like, owners are finally like, oh, I've lived my entire life, and I can't take all this money with me and bury it in a pyramid because that didn't work for the Egyptians. So I might as well spend some of it, and they go out and they win a title, right? But unfortunately, Bob Nutting ain't close to death, and so he ain't afraid of it yet, so he's keeping his money.
And he's always been the type of guy, Chris, that it's like until he'll like invest in the team. And I know Ben Cherington even made comments earlier this offseason that, the payroll will grow as the team improves. Well, I mean, to a degree,
that's not how it works.
And that's not how it works. I mean,
not how it works.
At some point in time, you have to, I mean, especially after a team made a 14-game improvement and throw away. I always say throw away what happened in April and people give blowback to that, but just throw that away. But if you made a 14-game improvement, you made an improvement. Like the team has improved. The payroll has to improve at some point in time. I'm just hoping that it's spent in the right places in the right way. We haven't seen it thus far this offseason. Every single move they've made compared to what's happened, in the main market, I don't mind because, like I said, if you have a Montas and we got a Gonzalez for however many $1 million less, like $13 million less, that's a good move.
Well, that's the thing. The only thing that gives me any kind of confidence, hope, in the middle of all this is the idea that last year Ben Cherington did an awful lot of dumpster diving and found an awful lot of value. Like he really did. He brought in some guys. They were performing well. He got some nice seasons out of players, and on paper going into the year, you're like, like what is this? How does this help us get any better, right? And we talked about that last season, the amount of value that he was able to find in journeymen and just Major League Baseball players that he put in the right position and were being used the right way. And you have to be able to do that within the constructs that you're given by this ownership. Like you have to be able to do that. But so I guess that gives me a belief that maybe it will work out, but it's frustrating to see the roster the way the roster is right now. And I think that when Pirates fans go to Pirates Fest, they have every right. Like I've said it before, you need to be calm during this build, and you need to trust the process. And I again have not decided that there's a problem in the front office. I have a problem though with the team because the owner has now hamstrung the front office. The worst thing that could have happened for the Pirates has happened this offseason. Spending got crazy, especially for pitching, and it's the number one thing that they need. And it got crazy. And to be honest with you, Martin Perez should be a 4 on a good team, and Gonzalez should be a 5 or a swingman. They're your 2 and your 3 right now. And I'm just going off of how Fangraphs rates them, and I can't argue with that. They're your 2 and your 3, and it's not good enough. This team would be lucky to get into the last wild card spot next year. Lucky. Because they don't have the pitching to do it. All right? Like what you're relying on right now as a Pirates fan is that you get off to a hot start with crappy pitching because you catch lightning in a bottle like you did last year, and that is not guaranteed in any way whatsoever, right? And that somehow one of your young arms, possibly Skeens, is able to come up because he just has another great first half of a year, looks good in spring, and he arrives in the middle of the season and sits all of a sudden atop your rotation and is pitching meaningful games. That's an awful lot of what ifs and lightning in a bottle that you really shouldn't be banking on. And that maybe gets you a playoff spot. Okay? Like, now look, 2 years ago, I couldn't come up with a scenario even close to that to get them to the playoffs, right? So I mean, they are better. But I mean, like, but that's unfortunately, if it ended today, if this is all they did with the team, it's not enough. You don't have enough pitching on this team. You really don't. You don't have enough arms. You don't have enough arm options. You don't have enough people that I'm feeling like they could show up and they could pitch from the minor leagues. You have too many guys that seem just a little bit too far away from the majors going into this year. Okay? That maybe in 2025, and maybe that's why Cherington is like, well, you know, we were ahead of schedule last year because he knows he doesn't have the arms until 25. Like it might be, he might have sat there and looked at this 2 years ago and said, well, 25, I'll have the arms, and we'll be a team that would start winning and stuff like that. And they had this first half of last year, and he's like, crap, I can't go get pitching for this. How am I going to fix this problem? So he's trying to piece it together by trying to find valuable deals for guys in the rotation, which is why I still think that there's more guys that are going to get signed, but you're going to have to wait and see who's left over after Major League Baseball and those that have money have picked through the starting pitchers that they want. I mean, it sucks, but that's what's happening. You're watching the rich kids take all the toys they want. They're going to leave you some crappy toys. They're going to take all the toys that you want. And you're going to have to find a toy with a broken wheel and say, wait, I got a wheel in a drawer over here. I think I can make it look just like new. And that's unfortunately what Pittsburgh Pirates off-season pitching shopping is right now. That's what it is.
And it's been a slow off season though, Chris, too. I mean, you can't agree, you can't disagree with that. I mean, we are sitting here recording on, what is it, 6:39, because we recorded a little bit later today because, you know, every single time we record earlier in the day, news breaks. So recording a little bit earlier here, you know, on January 2nd, but there's a lot of players that haven't been signed. And it's not like saying, you know, Ben Cherington, kudos to you for waiting or making the excuse. But I mean, I looked there and somebody put a joke or a meme out there that the Chicago Cubs have hired more coaches, because I think they hired a new like director of player development or something. So they've hired more coaches than they have signed players. But at some point in time, you do have to put your foot down. I mean, I'll be there at Pirates Fest. I'm going for the main reason I go to Pirates Fest, and it was the reason why I kind of started doing this podcast, is because my kids enjoy it. If my kids didn't enjoy baseball, I mean, I don't know if I could talk about it. I'd probably be like more involved in, like, I don't know if my kids got into basketball and they're cheering for the NBA or something. But I'm taking them there because they enjoy that type of stuff. But man, the Q&A, because you know that at least Shelton's going to be there. It hasn't been announced yet, but you would think they give the open Q&A, they said it's back. You would have to think that Travis Williams and Ben Cherington would be there. And I'm hoping somebody asks, just like, don't like ask it. You can ask it angrily, but just ask a very intelligent question to him. Basically saying, you know, you said you were going to attack this offseason. You said that there was going to be shopping in a different aisle. You said that, you know, we're moving forward. We're looking towards
shopping in a different aisle has to be said in the question, because it's not a different aisle. When he sits there and he says, yeah, I did shop in a different aisle, we're like, really? Did you?
Or even just like that we're going towards 84 wins.
Yeah.
Do you think you've added players to your team that will get you 8 wins without a hope and a prayer? Or like you talked about in a previous episode, Chris, like threading that needle, the thinnest of needles, to be able to get to that? Like, can that happen? Yes, but you would like to see moves that were made that would at least make that look more plausible or more like a guarantee that they are improving.
So here's the thing that you might hear at Pirates Fest in a response even. you might hear it in there, is that we have more pitching than we're getting credit for. That might be what he does. He might sit there and tell you that Jared Jones is coming, right? He may sit there and tell you that Paul Skeens is coming. He may sit there and tell you that like, look, we're putting guys in there so that we have players, but we expect these guys to take the next step. And so it's not as bleak as you're making it out to be, because these are guys that you need to start, thinking about. Again, though, this is why he felt like he was ahead of schedule last year, right? You take Skeens and Jones and you take Solometo, and you look at them in the prism of 2025, and you sit there and you go, oh, okay, hold on a second. We just need to fill in that back end of the rotation or that middle of the rotation. We need to just get some professional pitchers that we know are going to eat up 200 innings, because we think we got something now. We think we're bringing in some arms and things like that, because that's really where we're behind. But I think I go back to something that I've said so many times on this show. Pitching is such a volatile thing. Those are 3 guys in the MLB top 100 prospects list, and one of them will probably be a starter that sits somewhere between 1 and 3 in a rotation. One of them. Okay.
If you're lucky.
Another one might be a bottom rotation guy, and the other guy ain't going to make it. Okay? That's just the law of averages and how it works when you look at prospects. Okay? Now trust me, I'm excited about Skeens. I am. If I were the Pirates, I'd be talking about him constantly at Pirates Fest. Right? Would you? Like, I'd be talking.
His poster is probably going to be everywhere. I would be surprised if he was. He should be there.
He's going to be the thing they're going to try to sell you, because they need to sell hope and they don't have the big pitcher. So they're going to try to sell you him. And that's unfortunate for him, because it's an awful lot of pressure on a 21-year-old kid. Okay. But I mean, like, he's going to start feeling the hype here somewhere. You've got a guy who, I pulled up this because we mentioned the fantasy baseball thing, and I'm convinced you have the number 1 overall pick in our draft this year, in our dynasty draft. And for some reason,
I always do.
Right.
I always do.
You always do, because you're the worst team, right? And I had a debate with somebody in our league just yesterday. I'm not even kidding. Who I sent out a thing like, send in your league dues, and he sent in his dues, and he was like, number 1 overall pick is Skeens, right? To Yinsplosion. Like, he was just laughing. He was like, it's going to Craig's team. He's going to pick Skeens. And I was like, I don't know. I would take the more proven Yamamoto, who's like going to be with the Dodgers in fantasy, as my pitcher, right? But you're right. It'll probably be Skeens. We all know that's who you're picking, Craig.
Well, the funny thing is, Chris, I've had at least a minimum of 5 offers for that number 1 pick, because we can trade draft picks in our thing, which is one of the most brilliant things that is. Well,
what you should be doing is you should be trying to just trade back to 1 or 2 spots, because I don't think anybody else is taking Skeens number 1 overall. You are. Like, that's what I think.
We'll have to see. I probably am.